Hello.
Yeah, you might be right.
Good evening. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting, the 10th of September. No, it's not the 10th of September, is it? It's the 15th of October. I'm reading the other paper. 2025. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may be used for training purposes. First item is apologies. We have apologies from Luke, who is away on holiday. That's the Cabinet. I don't think we've got apologies from anybody else. Oh, from Louisa Davis. Okay. Declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations of interest? No. The minutes of the meeting on the 10th of September. Are you happy that they're signed? Yeah. Okay. We have no notification of any public questions. Similarly, we have no notification of any petitions or deputations. I'll now move on to leader and cabinet member questions. The first 5 are from Councillor Patel, and he's not in the room, so we'll move on. Similarly, the next 5 are from Councillor Gravels, and he's not in the room, so we'll move on. So question number 11, Stephanie Chambers.
Yeah, no supplementary for number 11. Number 12? Yeah. This is to the Cabinet Member for the Environment. I was surprised by your answer because I had already been told that the van was on order. So one thing I would like to know is if that van has been cancelled. And also, as we've established that the correct budget figures were available in January before the budget, and now there's a pretence that there's a massive shock in July, was the Cabinet's intention to agree budget amendments and just renege on them down the line? Was that always the plan?
Thank you for the question. No, I think the sentence there says not yet been purchased. I think we're continually reviewing it and looking at whether we can or not. There's no question of, I think you used the word pretense just now, and that's very much not the case. We were not aware of this budget shortfall, and this has led us to have to make some difficult decisions, and this ultimately might be one of them, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's number 13, that's the Cabinet Member for Planning.
Yeah, thank you. So it was an enforcement question, but I believe that's in your portfolio. So not all enforcement. Okay, I can refer it to Rebecca then, that's fine. Yep, so thank you for the answer. And I did see that work had been done, and I was really pleased to see that work had been done and saw that in the newspapers and some of them to be seized. We've had an incident in Quedgley in the last few weeks with cars being damaged by e-scooters and kids just riding off. And no way of getting them, that person has no way of claiming the damage to their car. So we really do want to see it being tackled outside of the city centre. And I know this says that the plan is that the police are going to do that, but the motion brought in July did say that this council was going to be working in close partnership with other agencies, including the police and the county council. So what work's been done so far across in other areas of the city other than the city centre by this council to try and complete the motions, whatever we call it.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I know there has been dialogue between the police and the City Council and also the County Council. There was a briefing that went to County Council members that was all about safety and aspect. I think there does seem to be a problem with the sort of joined up approach of it. It doesn't feel very conducive to what's going to be happening next. So, and in conjunction with the motion that came up, I think please just be reassured that from tonight, I will now go away to make sure that those conversations are had. And probably this is something that's needed in the February budget in terms of resource into looking at the whole problem outside of the city centre. Because obviously there is a resource implication. But that said, if we can join up with the Police Crime Commissioners, the OPCC, then that would give us probably more strength in being able to tackle it outside. Because as you say, it's a big problem and something needs to be done about it. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you. And just to add, speaking to my local PCSO, they're not allowed to seize, so they're the ones on the street and they can't seize them. It's unfortunate.
Okay, number 14.
Yep, number 14. A little bit frustrating because it doesn't actually, it's sort of the answer repeats my question in that, yes, there are priority areas. I get that. I want to know what areas are going to be covered and when they're going to be covered. I want to make sure all the areas in the city are going to be covered. And it's great to task councillors and residents to report on Fix My Street, but these are scheduled operations that are happening. I don't have any access to or know what Yubico's alloy system is, so it'd be really helpful just for residents and councillors to know. You know, people are quite understanding if there's going to be a change to that, but just to understand that yes, their street, it's be getting heavy and they know, oh, it doesn't matter because do you know what, next week or Monday it's going to be happening. Having those schedules are really important, and I do believe we've been promised these before for different operations of Yubico, but they haven't been forthcoming. So are you able to provide an actual schedule for leaf clearing so residents and councillors can be reassured that their streets are safe in their areas?
Thank you for the question. I think it's difficult on one hand because the actual schedule, and you mentioned alloy, that's the in-cab system that Yubico use. The actual schedule of where they go and when is very complicated, and there's a lot of detailed information. It wouldn't be practical to provide that to members, and we can, tell you where they go in a general sense. It's covered, the whole of the city is covered, and actually it has increased the capacity since last year. We've added a vehicle, but as well as that, you do have the reactive nature of the service where it can respond to heavier leaf fall. I will talk to the service manager about getting you some extra information. I know in the past, I think you or another member of your group has asked about weed clearance and whether we can have a schedule of that. That's a different matter really, because that is necessarily responding a bit more to weather. It's weather dependent. When we were spraying with glyphosate, it's a bit more weather dependent, so that's a different matter. But on this subject, I'm quite happy to talk to the service manager and see what we can get you.
Thank you.
Okay, Steph, your last question, number 15, is that?
Yep. Thank you for your answer. I do really feel that residents of Gloucester have a right to know where their tax money is being spent and whether that's directly spent or in reduction in rent, etc. So I do just think it is something that if there's only a couple of them, it would be easy just to add on to that reporting, so they know the charities and the good causes that are being supported by this city council. So it would be good to see that, and it is. We do remember that it's taxpayers' money, so it would be great to see that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephanie. I think we'll take that on board. And actually, I was just looking at the report that's coming up a bit later, and I think somewhere, I can't quite find it now, but it did actually stipulate that that isn't talked about. But yet they will look at then bringing that into a report so that, as you say, taxpayers can see what's happening with their money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alistair, we move quite fast, to make sure that you can ask your supplementaries. Number 16 is the first.
Number 16. So you've said that, thank you very much for the answer, stating that the contractors started work on the 9th. They since had to disappear off to another job and work on that, and they haven't come back because obviously they're working on another job. Does that mean that the City Council does not have enough resources because it's sort of juggling work around and contractors around? It doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the contractors in-house to facilitate the jobs properly? Because as you're aware, if the contractor went out to a job and undertook the work, then disappeared off to another job, the customer wouldn't be seeing that very favourably. As a result, the residents aren't seeing it very favourably either. What's going to happen with regards to that? Thank you very much. All the best.
That's mine. Yeah, that open space team is under-resourced. Yeah. I will go back to Martin, our new head of open spaces, and find out more. I don't know the details about this playground and what exactly is planned, but I will go and find out for you and give you some more information on it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was an amazing answer.
Number 17.
Thank you for advising that the Ukrainian flag had been removed by a third party, which was unknown to the City Council, and that a Palestinian flag was raised, and you've now since put a lock on it. Obviously, as you know, I do support Ukraine, and I'll be there visiting there in a couple of weeks' time myself. So this isn't a dig at Ukraine, but more so at the council. Why do you support Ukraine conflict over other conflicts, and hence not have the other flags representing that are currently at war?
I'll say the Ukraine flag has been flying since the Russians invaded their country, and we continue to fly the Ukrainian flag in solidarity against this, in favour of this country that is being invaded and bombed day and night. So it's only right that we should continue with that support. It's the administration's policy that we will continue to fly the Ukraine flag throughout until the Russians are kicked out of Ukraine. As far as the taking that flag down and the raising of another flag, Rebecca and I noticed that while we looked on a Facebook post of a friend while we were having a lovely breakfast in Bacon Brew in the docks. And so we wandered up and saw the flag and we took it down. And I then immediately informed the managing director that it had been taken down and we couldn't find the Ukraine flag anywhere, so we couldn't raise it again. And we asked for a new flag to be put up and some improved security on the flagpoles to stop people doing that easily again. And that's what we've done. Do you want to go to number 18?
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for such a fantastic answer. You're getting much better at these answers. Thank you. Hang on a minute, I've got a couple more to go. With regards to the crematorium, thank you for saying that, being aware there is 2 bodies that have been buried in the wrong place, but no others to your knowledge. No others to your knowledge sounds quite a precarious answer. The reason being is it doesn't seem like you're not actually sure if there is or any more. So therefore, Councillor Declan Wilson, will you give me your word there are no other bodies buried in the wrong place? And if you can't give me your word, why not?
When I saw your question, I made inquiries again to make absolutely sure, and I was told there are no other instances of bodies being buried in the wrong graves. That's just the way it is. you know, I say no others to my knowledge, because I think it's safe to say no others to anybody else's knowledge either. But, you know, if you know different, let me know. But I'm certainly not aware of any others, and nor any of the staff who have informed me that there is no others, except for the two ones that were quite regrettable and have been reported publicly.
Number 19, Alistair?
Thank you for sharing the question, Councillor Declan Wilson. With regards to question 19, the public want to know where the money's going, council money, taxpayers' money. I appreciate you're putting out some legislation, which you could do for pretty much every answer. However, it's not washing with the public. There's a recent post about it going into hidden meetings. The public have had enough of the council hidden meetings. The Lib Dem manifesto was stating that you're going to be open and transparent in all meetings going forward. This is not open and transparent. Things are being hidden. The public want to know where the money's going, why the family silver has been sold off for pennies, and why the fire sale. Is it because there's a huge pit, black hole, or are you just getting rid of the family silver?
First of all, the meeting's chaired by Andrew Gravels, so he will have made the decision along with officers' advice to hold that particular meeting in camera behind closed doors, because they were discussing the financial affairs of the airport itself. I've no idea what questions and discussions went on. I wasn't invited to attend, so I made no decision. This was the chair of the committee with officer advice, and we should always take officers' advice, particularly legal aspects of it. With regard to the sale of the airport, that was fully discussed at full council. We're now in the process of due diligence between the two councils and the potential buyers. And we're getting close to a conclusion on that. And once that's done, the opportunity at a later point for scrutiny to or audit and governance to take it for further discussion about the sale of the airport. They can do that. But at the moment, the important thing is that nothing's done to disrupt the sale of Gloucestershire Airport. And there has been a lot of wild speculation, totally uncorroborated in the media, from people that think they know something when they don't know something about the airport and about the potential buyers. So let's conclude that deal. And if you wanted to do a deal with a business, with your own business, I'm sure you wouldn't want everybody else asking you the questions and asking you to publicise that deal that you're just about to conclude. You want to do it and then announce it. And that's exactly what this council will do. Item 20.
Thank you. The difference is my business isn't run and owned by the taxpayers. It's not a public body, but thank you for the answer regardless. And thank you so much so far. This is the last question. I believe it's for the Cabinet Member for Environment. Thank you for advising there's been 20,000 allocated and there's been 51 requests to remove graffiti from public-owned buildings, council-owned buildings. Unfortunately, I'd like to say that the service so far has been nothing more than appalling and rubbish, as far as I can say. Yesterday, I counted 13 penises painted on council buildings, along with other swear words and whatnot. How are you going to manage washing off the penises from the walls? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't obviously agree with your characterisation of the service at all. I think it's very impressive what we've done so far. We've allocated extra money for graffiti removal. We established a task force having written a graffiti action plan, which there never was under the previous administration. So it's an issue we take extremely seriously. And if there is offensive graffiti on council buildings, then we wish to know about it. You'll see from the answer that we've actioned all the 51 requests that we've received very quickly, but any new ones we would look to deal with as quickly as possible. If there is graffiti on private land, then unfortunately we can't always act. If it's owned by someone else, we wouldn't be insured, we would be liable for any damage done. The exception to that would be if it's offensive, and we can usually act to get that removed or work with the partners You'll also note that there's extensive information on the council website, which again wasn't there before, which details how to work with agencies and partners and get them to clear off graffiti off their private property. They're often better placed. They have their own staff, often and their own teams, and they usually want to do it themselves. And that's why we don't always intervene on those. But any graffiti on council land, we take very seriously. We act very quickly. And any offensive graffiti, wherever it is, we want to know about it. We will deal with it quickly.
Yeah, I thought Councillor Chambers is capable of writing an email and even sending photographs in an email of offensive graffiti that he's seen, and maybe he ought to do that as well, and we can get it cleaned up. That's the end of questions.
I have
Thank
done.
you. That's the end of questions.
I sent lots of... Thank you. See you, Jeremy.
Yep. Thank you, Alistair. Right then, item 7, the financial report, monitoring the first quarter report. In actual fact, it's the first 4 months. Declan, do you want to introduce this?
Yes, before I do, could I just say a few words about our previous head of finance, Greg Maw? We will all have heard the very sad news that he sadly passed away last Friday. When I look at these reports, particularly finance reports, it's always been so familiar to me to see Greg's name on them, and it's so sad that that will no longer be the case. I always found him to be extremely helpful in explaining complex topics. And he also said to me part of his role was to explain to members the meaning and thinking behind the numbers. And he was very good at explaining quite complex topics. And I think in many ways that was his greatest strength. Certainly in later years, you could see that he was struggling. He wasn't well, but he still kept on plugging away, and I really admire him for that. Right up till he left us late last year, the employee of the council, he was still providing valuable advice to me and to everyone else. And I'm sure everybody here today, the cabinet officers, members present, I'm sure will join me in offering our sincere condolences to Greg's family. Thank you. Right. This is the finance report. It's for the 4 months rather than the 3, because we were dealing with other more serious issues in July, August time. And the report itself is presented really in the shadow of the revised outturn reports for 2022-23 and 2023-24. We know the story now as regards the information that we had been receiving in finance reports. We know our reserves are now 1.5 million less than what we thought they were, and this has given us a huge financial challenge. Everything really from this point onwards has to be looked at in this context. In addition, there's other uncertainties that we also need to be aware of. The changes to the local government funding landscape are still not decided and not defined. The government will not announce the provisional settlement until December, partly due to the late... I have no idea what that buzzing was, but I'll continue. This material affects the money plans. We will have to do our best using the guesswork and guidance that we've been receiving from our consultants as to what we think that financial settlement is going to be. But we will be looking at it more keenly than we normally do. It should be a multi-year settlement, which should help us next year and the following year. But this year is really when we need to know as soon as possible just what the settlement for next year is going to be. We also need to be aware and mindful of the costs of local government reorganisation, irrespective of what arrangements we end up with. The costs will still be significant, and I think the government has said that district councils can be expected to pay around about £1 million each in costs as we transform from one type of council or local authority to another. And that's going to we're going to have to sort of think about where we're going to find and raise that money from. So certainly next year's money plan will need to take us into account. The report, as usual, summarises everything by portfolio. It also lists the actions approved at the September Council to do with the recently revealed overspends in 2022-23 and 2023-24. Paragraph 6 outlines the movements in earmarked reserves, and Appendix 1 is the capital programme. So that is pretty much it. The report's in front of you. Happy to take any questions or listen to any comments. I think we're asked to note this report tonight, and thank you, Jeremy.
Well, I think in view of the problems in the last 2 years of the former administration, where there was considerable overspends of a tune of 750,000 on average over those 2 years, the figures we've got on this one, which is the sort of estimates of where we're going to be at the end of the year, shows that the general fund's balance, which we were planning to boost by 126,000, at this point in time says we're looking to be on target for 156,000. So that's a £30,000 increase. Well, of course, this outturn is based up until I think up until July, wasn't it? So that's exactly when we found out about the 2 previous years' financial problems, which were handed down to us. So we've taken some form of action. So I'm hoping, I'm praying to some extent that by the time we get to the next quarterly report, we'll see a further improvement in the amount of money that we can put into the general fund balance to try and restore that balance, which has been hard hit by the problems handed down to us by the former administration. But we're working really hard to make sure that spending, department spending and service spending under our administration is closely scrutinised, and we keep the services to come in on budget. But of course, as we've got this financial headache, we're looking to see whether we can make savings from whatever source, and that's the objective of what we're planning to do over the next year. But it is encouraging that we are technically on budget for the budget that we set ourselves, which is the first budget this administration set when we set it in February. So things are brighter than they were before, but they are not. We haven't resolved the financial headache this council's got, but we're moving in the right direction. I think that's encouraging. I thank the finance team for their help, and also for the officers who've been looking at ways and means in which they can rein in their expenditure. Anybody else got anything to say, or shall we agree to the report?
Yeah, I was just going to say that myself and all my cabinet colleagues are working hard with our officers to look at where we can be more efficient with our budgets. It's obviously of prime importance now, given our financial situation. So it's encouraging that, like you said before, these extra measures that we're looking at have kicked in. We're already trending in the right direction, and we'll continue to work on making more efficiencies as we go along to try and improve our overall forecast position by the time we get to the next financial outturn.
Sebastian.
Thanks, Leader. I would echo Councillor Courtney's comments there, because I, as well, have had several meetings with my team and with Yubico to look at ways we can save money or raise revenue, and it's something that we're going to have to keep doing. And I think it's important that we have 7 active members of the Cabinet who are all on top of their brief, who are all working really hard in their respective portfolios to push for savings and revenue enhancements. And I think that was something that the previous administration lacked, because they didn't have the capacity, unfortunately. And looking at my environment portfolio at 5.18 and 5.19, looks as though that, fingers crossed, it will come out favourable to the budget by £93,000. And I think the point I'd like to make about that, as well as there's some good reorganisation going on in the various departments that I deal with, I think the headline is that the recycling income has continued to remain robust. And thank goodness that we haven't listened to the voices from certain opposition members who tried to get us to change our recycling service and to a system that would not allow us to retain the income from that recycling. It would mean that we'd have to take it miles and miles away to be processed and we wouldn't get the income. So thank goodness we're still continuing to get that. It could be more vital than ever before to retain that income from recycling every year.
Yeah, and that's an important thing that the public can help with by making sure that they recycle their curbside waste in a really good way so that we can obtain the maximum income from the recyclable waste that we've collected off our customers, off the people of the city.
And on that, Chair, yeah, it's currently our rate of recycling is about 41%, which is not bad actually compared with other cities and towns of a similar size. But if we were to increase that rate by even a few percentage points, it would result in a significantly higher income for the council. So we already make a significant amount each year that goes to support services. We don't make a profit, it goes back into supporting services. But if we could increase that recycling rate by even something like 5%, 10%, it would make a massive difference to our council's finances. So I'd encourage all members and all residents to recycle as much as you possibly can, especially aluminium and cardboard and plastic. That's the stuff that really gets the value.
It's a much better way of helping the council than putting it on a bonfire. Right, anybody else got anything to say? No. Do we accept the report? Thank you. We'll move on to Rebecca for the final report on grant funding.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report notes the grant funding provided to the voluntary community and social enterprise sector in 2024-25, and which I am pleased to say reflects our commitment as a council to community-led development. My thanks goes to all those officers that have processed these grants and voluntary monies to these organisations. Funding is available through several targeted streams, including advice agency grants, the Councillor Community Fund, the breakdown of which and the organisations supported can be seen in Appendix 1 of this report, Gloucester Lottery and the Resident-Led Action Fund. You'll see under section 9.3 the funding sources for this year's grants, including the over 25,000 that was spent as part of the Councillor Community Fund, which helped many organisations across the city with their different projects. In going forward, however, I would like to work with officers to conduct a review of the voluntary grants. A date is already set in my diary to do this. This allows us to see whether there is a more strategic and impactful way of distributing resources, and that when resources are given, the council receives more detailed feedback explicitly stating how such funds made a difference to individuals within that community. I think you would agree with me that organisations need to be accountable for the funds they receive from whatever funding stream, not least the councillor community grants. It is important, therefore, that if organisations receive funds from us, then adequate feedback must be provided back from the organisation in how and who benefited from the funds they received. The reason why I'm saying this is that I am pleased to say many organisations, especially from the Councillor Community Fund, do provide such feedback, but unfortunately it's not all of them, as many others don't, and this has to be a prerequisite to any money that they do receive. However, it cannot be underestimated that work done through community projects helps increase social interactions and local connections throughout this city, adding to a sense of belonging and improving the physical and mental well-being of many individuals who participate. Therefore, this report is here to be noted. Thank you.
Anyone got anything else to add to that? No? Sure. That's accepted then. We'll accept that report. That's the end of the meeting.